From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. The group Doctors Against Genocide, or DAG, gathered in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday to demand the release of Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya, who has been detained by Israeli forces after a hospital raid in Gaza. The global coalition had 50 medical professionals visit U.S. lawmakers urging action on Gaza's humanitarian crisis. The group condemned attacks on hospitals as systematic destruction and urged Americans to demand justice. Dr. Nidal Jabour, DAG's co-founder, highlighted that hospitals in Gaza have become deliberate targets by Israel, which has left facilities bombed and inoperable. Despite personal losses, Abu Safiya continued treating patients under siege before being abducted and tortured by Israel. DAG has called for an arms embargo on Israel and accountability for the ongoing war.
Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya, our hero, is happening. He stands out as a testament to courage and humanity. Dr. Abu Safiya was the head of Kamal Adwan Hospital, treating unimaginable injuries with no resources. He described children with severed limbs, mothers weeping for their dying infants, and fathers begging for help. Tortured and taken to a detention facility notorious for its cruelty. We remain in contact with his family, who are desperate for answers. His children sent us a message just yesterday, pleading with the world to save their father. We are here to demand immediate action to stop the genocide in Gaza and to protect the most sacred of spaces, hospitals, and the people who dedicate their lives to saving others.
Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have killed at least 70 Palestinians and injured 104 others in the last 24 hours, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Among the victims were 3 young girls and their father, who were killed in Nusayrat refugee camp. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency confirmed their home was destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. UNICEF reports that 74 children were killed in Gaza during the first week of 2025. 8 newborns have died from hypothermia since late December, with more than 1 million children living in freezing makeshift shelters. The United Nations has warned that Gaza's fuel supplies are exhausted. Hospitals cannot power generators, putting patients and newborns at severe risk. Meanwhile, more than 800 parents of Israeli soldiers imprisoned in Gaza have urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to end the war. They fear Gaza will become a cemetery for their children. The Israeli army said 10 soldiers died in Beit Hanun in 2 weeks, with the total soldier casualties at 831 and 5,589 other personnel injured in the war on Gaza. Israel's military says it has recovered an Israeli prisoner, Yusuf Ziyadin's body in southern Gaza. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed at least 46,006 Palestinians and wounded 109,378 since October 7, 2023. In November 2024, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel also faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its deadly war on Gaza. The New York Times has rejected an ad from the American Friends Service Committee, or AFSC, a Quaker group, which called Israel's assault on Gaza a genocide. The ad also urges Congress to stop U.S. military aid to Israel. The AFSC claims the Times asked them to replace the word genocide with war, a term they argue has a vastly different legal meaning. AFSC refused, calling the move an attempt to silence accountability. The Times defended its decision, claiming adherence to legal and factual accuracy in ads. The AFSC, however, highlighted that Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have called Israel's actions in Gaza a genocide. The group has accused the Times of prioritizing compliance over truth, noting decades of media bias against Palestinians. The group continues to advocate for a ceasefire and an end to U.S. support for Israel while providing humanitarian aid in Gaza. American filmmaker Michael Moore has expressed support for the film From Ground Zero. It showcases the humanitarian crisis in Gaza through 22 short stories. It was directed by Palestinian filmmakers Aus al-Banna, Ahmed al-Danf, Basil al-Maqusi, and Mustafa al-Nabih. From Ground Zero has been nominated for Best International Feature Film at the 97th Academy Awards. On social media, Moore praised the film, calling it a human and cinematic miracle. He compared it to movies like 12 Years a Slave and Oppenheimer, emphasizing the need to hear these untold stories. Moore also condemned global complicity in Gaza's suffering. He criticized media silence and restrictions on journalists, highlighting the atrocities Palestinians face, including bombed hospitals and schools. The White House has dismissed claims that Israel's actions in Gaza amount to genocide. This is despite its recognition of genocide in Sudan. The Biden administration condemned Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, for systematic ethnic killings and brutal violence, declaring a genocide there. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also said the RSF and allied militias have conducted direct attacks against civilians. The National Security Council's John Kirby claimed that while civilian casualties in Gaza are excessive, the Israeli Defense Forces do not systematically target Palestinians. The UN and Amnesty International have accused Israel of intentional starvation, obstruction of aid, and collective punishment in Gaza. International courts are pursuing cases against Israeli leaders, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, alleging war crimes and genocide in Gaza. Despite criticism, the U.S. maintains its stance, differentiating between Gaza and Sudan's atrocities. In related news, the U.S. has imposed sanctions on Sudan's Rapid Support Forces leader, Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, known as Hamedti. This is for his role in genocide and systematic atrocities. Secretary of State Antony Blinken condemned the RSF and allied militias for targeting civilians based on ethnicity, committing mass killings, and using sexual violence as a weapon. Blinken also highlighted their attacks on fleeing civilians and obstruction of vital humanitarian aid. The U.S. Treasury has sanctioned 7 companies and 1 individual tied to the RSF. These measures come as Sudan continues to grapple with a violent conflict between the RSF and the National Army since April 2023. The war has killed more than 20,000 people and displaced 14 million. The sanctions underscore the U.S.'s stance against the RSF's atrocities. Raging Los Angeles wildfire forces mass evacuations. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. A fast-moving wildfire in Los Angeles has forced 30,000 people to flee. Strong winds reaching close to 40 miles per hour fueled the fire, which erupted in the Pacific Palisades Tuesday morning. By evening, the blaze had scorched nearly 3,000 acres, threatening 10,000 homes. Authorities warned of worsening winds overnight, urging residents to evacuate. Vice President Kamala Harris has assured federal support, emphasizing the need for vigilance. Governor Gavin Newsom confirmed 110 fire engines were dispatched to Southern California. Los Angeles firefighters have reported multiple injuries, including a serious head injury. The National Weather Service issued red flag warnings, with wind gusts expected to hit close to 100 miles per hour in mountainous areas, escalating fire danger. Residents are advised to remain alert as officials battle extreme fire danger.
I had anxiety really bad. I didn't think I could make it, but then when the fire started getting close, my brother, my friend, and me, we grabbed shovels. The county turned off our water supply, so we're out there with shovels throwing dirt on fires. We saved, I think, 3 neighbors' houses so far, but the fires are still moving towards our house.
Never. I've lived in this area for over 20 years, and we've seen fires in the mountains and the hills and that, but never anything like this.
It's probably climate change is affecting everything, you know. It's, I'm sure, added to it, you know, and made this happen. And the world's just in a really bad place, and we need to do more.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, has issued a rule banning medical debt from credit reports to relieve millions of Americans struggling with health care bills. The regulation removes $49 billion in unpaid medical debt from credit reports and boosts credit scores by 20 points on average for those affected. The rule is widely popular, with advocates saying it has the potential to help 15 million people burdened by medical debt. However, Republicans, who are poised to regain control in Washington, have vowed to reverse the rule. Senator Tim Scott has urged the CFPB to halt further action, emphasizing the agenda of the incoming administration of President-elect Donald Trump. CFPB Director Rohit Chopra has called out abusive practices by debt collectors using inaccurate medical bills to pressure payments. Critics argue that reversing the rule would favor credit reporting companies over struggling families. Thousands braved freezing temperatures in the U.S. Capitol to honor former President Jimmy Carter, who lay in state before his funeral. Mourners included Vice President Kamala Harris and other lawmakers. Carter, who died at the age of 100 on December 29th, was remembered for his dedication to human rights, environmental protection, and justice for minorities and women. Harris praised Carter's landmark energy policies and environmental achievements, including doubling national park areas. Republican Representative Ralph Norman called Carter a patriot despite political differences. Today's funeral united President Joe Biden, President-elect Donald Trump, and other leaders who reflected on Carter's legacy as a transformative outsider president. Biden said, "We may never see his like again. You know, we can all do well to try to be a little more like Jimmy Carter." That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.